On this video, I'm going to be showing you one very cool and very used shop truck. All right, let's get to it. So this is a super exciting truck with a really neat history. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a long time, you may recognize that solid axle S10 over there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the video. Now, what is the interesting history of this truck? Well, I actually purchased this thing many years ago with the intent of making it solid axle and having a cool wheeler. Well, when I got it, the rear part of the bed was pretty damaged, and we've ended up finding that it needed a little bit more TLC than we wanted to put into it, we being low range 4x4, who I was ultimately going to build this truck with. So I sold this, really just did a little horse trading with the owner of Low Range, and he said, you know what, I'll build it one day and it'll be just a fun little shop truck. And this is what came of that. Now, as you see it, I think it's got a little over 300,000 miles on it. It's really neatly built in that it's not so extreme like the other one that you can't daily drive it and things like that. So let's run over like everything that's done to it. The first thing we're going to start off with is something that might be a little confusing. So it is actually a GMC Sonoma, but the front grille is a little cracked up on it, so it ended up getting a Chevrolet front conversion for it. So that's why it's modified there. The original front bumper, to give it a little bit more clearance, was actually trimmed out a bit here. So that's how it kind of has a little bit more clearance, and I'll talk a little bit more about the tires here. It was trimmed a little bit there so it can run these 37s. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to be curious about, and that is, how is it straight axled? So this actually uses a Sky off-road design straight axle conversion, and it's a leaf spring conversion using 44044 Rancho leaf springs. These are Wagoneer front springs, and it is a Wagoneer front axle. It does have a high steer knuckle on it. The suspension overall has been like this for years. It's just using some basic rough country shocks. These shock towers just come from Sky Off-Road. Pretty simple weld-on setup. And that's really the basis of the straight axle conversion. The factory steering gearbox is still in play. The front axle has 456 differential gears in it and a Lock-Right locker. It's using Warren hubs. So if you're curious about straight axling, that's how it is. They did it all here at Low Range, of course. The front winch mount was just a basic winch tray that was welded to the cross member and reinforced, so it has a bit of recovery if it needs it. Now, let's get into some of the more fun stuff. Now, it does have a 231C, so that's what these trucks come with, the transfer case. Now, the 231C has been modified with a 231J front output, and that's what allows it to have this 1310 aftermarket front drive shaft. So it's got plenty of travel, works just fine. And the rear drive shaft is actually stock, but it's been modified a bit to work with this Xterra Rear axle. Now, one of the reasons that Kelly, Low Range owner, wanted to use the Xterra Rear axle is that it already had a limited slip, had 456 gears, and the right bolt pattern. It's a pretty inexpensive axle and a pretty easy bolt in for the S10. Now, this rear axle has a set of factory springs that are just bolted on top of the axle, so that's what's giving it its lift. And the rear shocks come from the back of a Jeep Gladiator, so just some spare parts around the shop to get this thing set up. Now, the original back bumper was in kind of bad shape, so ultimately he decided to build a custom rear bumper, and so it's a dual style tube back bumper. Works very functional for what he wanted to do. It does have a receiver in the back. It's got a set of lights. Didn't want to do anything crazy. Again, this was never really meant to be an extreme rock crawler. It was more of a, hey, a fun shop truck that if we wanted to take it off-road, if they did, they absolutely could. For a little bit more rocker protection, when this thing does get in the rocks, it does have a set of trail gear sliders. The only thing that I will note is when you go with a set of trail gear sliders, which are almost perfect length for this, you will have to make longer brace arms for it because the ones that come with it are designed for a Toyota and they're a little short. Now, in order to clear the 37s, the fenders did have to be trimmed out pretty heavily, both the front and the rear. This is something that they were pretty familiar with doing with the white S10. It didn't have to go quite as extreme as the S10, but it has plenty of room for these tires. What tires are those? Well, it's running a 37 by 1250 R17 Nitto Trail Grappler. These tires have been on here for years. They work fantastic. They're still perfectly fine for daily driving, and it's mounted on a 17-inch Dirty Life beadlock wheel. As you can see, you got the Warren locking hub sitting out front. Just a really cool, simple setup, and it really doesn't have this huge, like, over-the-top stance. It's kind of deceiving. If you kind of glance over here, you can see just how big this S10 on 40 sits, and just kind of how mellow this one is. In terms of overall modifications, it does have a different transmission, or at least it's been rebuilt. The inside of it hasn't had to do like a lot. There's not a lot of changes in terms of, it's, you know, just a high mileage S10, but the seats really aren't in that bad a shape. It's got an aftermarket head unit and just some basic stuff. This truck gets used by the whole family. He's got a family of 4, so they take it on the beach, go wheeling, and as I'm here today at the shop, it's an absolute cool shop truck. Now, where this sort of kind of came from and how it got paused. So this truck was actually straight axled and wrapped up before this one. Now, if you're not familiar with this truck, I'll give you a quick rundown on it. This was built here at Low Range, and it was sort of something I wanted to do. That I wanted a crew cab, a double cab truck that was domestic. I wanted to have something that wasn't as expensive as a Tacoma, and this was kind of what I thought. Now, this truck started off just like that one in terms of it was completely stock. It was ripped down. The only thing that was left in it was the engine. It has a high pinion 60 front, 40-inch tall Nitto trail grapplers, or excuse me, Nitto mud grapplers. Same basic trail gear sliders, except these were rotated on the side to be more of a step. The rear axle is a GM 14 bolt. It has 538 differential gears in it, coilover, 4-link. I will put a link on the screen right now to the full like feature breakdown I did on this thing many years ago. Now, I no longer own this truck. It actually belongs to Kelly, so he's got 2 solid axle S10s now. It is also worth noting that this truck still has the factory 4.3 liter V6. Those engines aren't terribly strong, but they get the job done, and when they're mated with differential gears, it really helps. So I wanted to kind of do a fun, quick walk around. I had both of the S10s up here doing a little work on some Jeep stuff today. So this is it. If you got any questions, just drop them in the comments. If you want to see some stuff I'm working on behind the scenes, you can always check me out at all social media at Ollie Mansour Editor. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and hope to see you on the trail.